go. You did it. You made it. All right. Let's do it.
What's up, man?
What's up, Louis? Everybody, this is Louis KR1. And so now you guys know what he looks like. He's no longer mysterious. His identity's been revealed. And so, Louis, I appreciate you very much for joining us tonight and speaking about your good friend, Don One, and sort of taking a trip down memory lane with us. And,
who's that guy?
And schooling us on that guy.
You must mean him.
I mean him.
You mean him?
Him. And so what we're gonna do right now is, for everybody that doesn't know, we're gonna take a trip down memory lane to remember Don One and his history and his contribution to this art movement. And the reason why we're doing that with Louis here is because Louis wrote this incredible book called Don One, the King from Queens, right? And there he is. And he wrote this book many years ago. And if you come to the Museum of Graffiti, you would actually see some of Don One's images there. And you would learn a little bit about him, which, we find to be so very important to do. And so, Louis, can you just, kick it off by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you personally were introduced to this world of graffiti?
Well, I was personally introduced to graffiti. I first noticed graffiti in 1974 going to a New York Met game, because in 1974 the New York Mets were playing their home games at the New York Yankees, were playing their home games at Shea Stadium, because they were working on Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. So I guess when the Mets were away, the Yankees would play their games at home at Shea. So me and my older brother and my nephews and my younger brother, God bless his soul, he would take us to Shea Stadium. So we'd take the double R from 36th Avenue to Queensboro Plaza, and a 7 train pulls into the station, and it's got like cartoons. It's got like what I didn't know it was lettering. I just thought it was shapes. And I said to my brother Rocco, I go, Rock, what is that? He goes, which what? I said, what are those shapes, and what are the polka dots, and what are the stars and all that stuff? He goes, it's a bunch of punks with spray paint. So I'm looking at it, a bunch of punks with spray paint. Little did he know, like 3 years later, 1977, I would turn into one of those punks with spray paint. But punks from my neighborhood meant, like, it didn't mean punk rock. It meant like punk. You couldn't fight. You don't know how to fight. You're a punk. So I'm like, well, whatever. So 1977, my boy Mace, who lived 2 blocks away from me, he's looking at photos by the schoolyard. And I said to him, I go, what is that? And he shows me a picture of the double R layup with an MC throw up on it. So I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck a throw up is. I don't have no idea what the term graffiti means. I said, why are you taking photos of trains? He goes, no, look on the train. I said, what's that? He goes, that's a throw up. And that was it. All I had to do was be introduced to, by Mace, BYB, and I was like hooked. And so I got a tag, many tags, but I didn't know it was, first of all, when I saw the lettering, I didn't know it was letters, man. I used to call them marshmallow letters. Flick 2, Page 1. These guys, Sun and Pro, this was a little bit before Sun and Pro. Because to me, Sun and Pro, all respect due to everybody who came before Sun and Pro. But when Sun and Pro entered the picture, and I was a little kid, at Queensboro Plaza looking, they devastated the line. They were to me, they were the ultimate kings of the 7s. There's one window down hole card that I'm still trying to get. It's sensational, professional. And I think our friend, cousin Frank, is the only one that has that picture. I've never seen a photo of it, but I seen it in person, and
So
I
hang on
was
a second.
fucking blown away. What?
Hang on a second. So you're getting really deep, really fast with
Okay.
neighborhood Queens history, and so everybody that's on here doesn't know what you know, and so
Right.
think about us not knowing anything at all about this world, and so you're a kid in an elementary school. Your friend Mace shows you a photo album and you see trains for the first time, and then you start to notice these marshmallow letters, like you're calling them, around. And you mentioned some important names that I want you just to recap. You said Flick, you said Page Two, and then you said Sun and Pro. And so now, for those of you out there that have never heard these names before, these are other teenagers from Queens that were painting the trains at that time in the early 1970s. And not just painting them very, very well with a lot of style. That's why they stood out to young Louis, right? When whatever Louis was writing at the time, I don't know. But
A
you
lot of
mentioned
different shit.
so you mentioned two guys. You mentioned Sun and Pro, who turned out to be some of the most prolific train riders in Queens
Ever.
ever. And so if you ever want to find out more information like that, we'll do another talk about that more. And so this is the early 1970s, 75, 74 you're talking about. This is really the
Well,
beginning of stylized graffiti on trains. That's what we're talking about, right? And
yes, sir.
so
Uh, well, when I first noticed it, it's 1974. So yes, the metamorphosis already began. It already went from, single hits to like phase two with bubble letters. But I think what I was watching and what really hit me over the head like a fucking anvil was the next step from from like the bubble letter throw up, neatly filled in with huge fat caps and like thin outlines, razor sharp, and then you enter Don One. So
okay,
to me, go ahead.
so hang on a second. So we're
Okay.
gonna jump into Don One in a second, just so people know your story. So you mentioned that you wanted to be a graffiti punk, just like your brother had called out, and you decided to do it. And we have this image on the screen of what looks like a young you, um, as
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
as a graffiti punk.
Well, that's 1988, and I was a graffiti metalhead. I wasn't really a punk rocker. I was all into Judas Priest and Black Sabbath and Rush. That's already in the late eight. That's me doing a mural in Broadway, Astoria, like predating Lady Pink. I went from the tracks right to what I called graffiti advertising in Astoria, Queens. I wound up getting like 10 jobs. And it's funny because while I was doing that wall right there that you're looking at, she came up to me and was like, "Oh, KR, I see that you have gained control over the can. Would you like to be my assistant?" And I was like, "All right, whatever." So we tried to get a couple of jobs, but because I had long hair and graffiti was not really digested yet, we didn't get no gigs together. She wound up getting gigs on her own, and I just kept going doing my thing, which turned into, joining heavy metal bands. Oh, I was already in heavy metal bands since 1982. So in '88, I joined like a band that we got signed to Epic Records. This band from New York City called Blitzbeer. I went from Blitzbeer to Murphy's Law to Lords of Brooklyn to Psycho 69. I went all over the place playing heavy metal
All
and
right. Well,
punk
well
rock.
let's not get into
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All
hypothetical.
right, go ahead.
So let's bring it back to graffiti, just so people
Okay,
know
okay.
that who we're speaking to today isn't just a slouch, isn't just a regular author. You actually are a practitioner in the movement. You painted, you paid your
Oh,
dues, you've lived the life. Here we have a couple of examples of your old work. So you discover graffiti in the schoolyard, you decide to do it, you become enamored with it, and you start to paint the same trains that you first saw in the photos. Am I correct?
you are correct, sir.
And what year did you start to paint, and how old were you?
Okay, so I started writing graffiti in the neighborhood when I was 11 years old, just like toy tags and all over the place. The schoolyard was my like sketch pad, let's say. So in 1979, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was just talking about it. 1979, after 2 years of tagging up and practicing, I entered the M Yard with KB, TSS, SN, Sicknick, BTB, Big Time Boys. Uh, Chi 133's youngest brother, who used to write Stab, his name was Jose, and another guy from, like, say, I call it the RTW land of the Upper East, Upper West Side. This guy that wrote Tex 2, he had a crew called WYM, Warped Young Minds. So how old was I in 1979? I was 13 years old. So I'm in the M Yards at 13 with TSS, BTB, WYM, and that's it. And so Psycho, TB, Psycho the Boys, Tech 2, God bless BT, Bad Taxi, because he passed away recently, and he was up like a motherfucker, king of the insides. And Bad Tech came up to KB. Psycho comes up to KB and goes, "Yo, who are these guys?" And KB knew him. SN knew Psycho. Psycho ran that yard. He just said, "No, this is KR. This is Texu. This is Stab. You know me, I'm KB. You know me, I'm SN." So he said, "All right, cool." And he broke out. He left. I never seen him again. I never met him again. Those guys knew him for a long time already. Because TB, the Boys, which is originally a clique by this guy that used to write Nine, Nine. Nine gave TB to another BMT writer, initially from Manhattan, Hate 168. He took over TB and kept TB going into the 80s with guys like AS2, T59, Smoke, KB, SN, and assorted other guys, BH1.
So Louis, hang on one second. So
Yes, sir.
So just for those out there that haven't heard these names before, this is again very local history to New York City, in particular to Queens. We're talking about you're mentioning TB, Psycho TB, rest in peace. You mentioned Bad Taxi, BT just recently passed away. May he rest in peace. And you mentioned someone that you went with, which is KB. For those of you that have never heard of KB before, there is a KB tag right there on the screen at the moment. And then his very famous and well-known throw-up is right there on the screen at the moment, along
And
with
that's a Sophia block letter, window down, whole car, that if you look to the left of it, and I don't know why he did this, God bless him, rest his soul. PG went over my KR burner and left the Sophia piece. Now, I did that piece in 1981 in the M Yards. Me and Foam One, my partner, Foam did a top-to-bottom whole car on the other train, on the other side of the car. So on the other side of the KR Sophia piece, there's a FOME top-to-bottom whole car. So we were in the M Yard for like 10 hours, just hanging out, no problems except one thing. The right next to the M Yard is a bus depot. The bus drivers started throwing bottles at us and hitting the train, and I was like, where the fuck is that coming from? And I looked, and I see this guy winging like a football, smashing bottles against the train. And I said, yo, what the fuck? He goes, let's get out of here. I said, Phone, we can't go nowhere, bro. We got to hide. So this is a crazy story, and it's true. We had to hide underneath that train, right? So the glass stopped. The glass explosions stopped. But it didn't end there. Thank God I was finished with my piece. I was helping Foam not outline. I was helping him do like straight lines. And that's when the train started getting bombarded. We had to hide under that train, and then the next fucking thing happened, which was fucked up. Some fucking conductor, who I don't blame him, he probably didn't know we were in the yard anyway. When we hid under that train, he started the fucking train. And I'm under the train with Poncho. Well, his name was Poncho, but he wrote Foam. Now, Foam 1 was my boy. He had polio. His right leg was messed up. He couldn't walk that much, and he was a great basketball player, if you could believe it or not. and he had a really bad limp, but he was my friend. So we're hiding underneath the train, and this motherfucker starts the train. So I'm looking at motors and big square electrical things coming at us while we're underneath the train. So Foam was having a problem getting out from underneath the car. I had to grab him by his belt and push him, and he went flying onto the gravel. But dude, if I didn't do that, and I moved right at the nick of time, my right leg from above the knee down would have been chopped off, and I would have been like case two, except I would have had one leg instead of fucking one arm. So, that was a true story, man. That was in the M Yard when I was like 1981. So what am I, 15 now?
So
That was
this story that you're mentioning about this particular incident is a very common story that I hear with many writers, where for those of you that don't know, painting trains and sort of being in train yards, these are active environments where things are constantly moving. People are working there while
while
teenagers
we're
are also
riding
in
on the
their paint,
trains.
right? So there's these worlds colliding, and it could be very dangerous, and people have been hurt before. And so I'm glad you guys made it out there, and that we even have proof of that day with that Sophia piece, and of course those great KB throw ups above it. And so,
Right.
we want to get into not just your story. I just wanted to get a little bit of backstory
Okay.
from you about yourself, so that people understand
Sure.
a little bit about you and who you
Of
are and where
course.
you come from, right?
Yes.
But this is really about Don
Down
Juan,
one.
right? And so here we have a picture of Don Juan. When you first remember Don Juan, what was your earliest memory of Don?
Oh, my earliest memory of Don one, the name was 1976. I walk onto 36th Avenue train station, which was an elevated layup that went from 39th Avenue in Astoria by Don Juan's house, and it went like 39th Avenue, 36th Avenue, Broadway, 30th Avenue, and then almost all the way to Hoyt Avenue. So it's a layup above ground that spanned 4 stops. So I get on the train station in 1976, and I'll remember it forever because he's the one that showed me. The piece that you saw was this piece, and it hit me after I met him, it hit me like a fucking bolt of lightning. I was 10 years old, and it was one of the pieces that I used to say to my brother Rocco, look, is that one of the punks from with the spray paint? And he would say, yeah, but it was a Don one piece, and I remember it because it was crazy legible. It was Cascade green with pastel aqua polka dots with a forest green or Kelly green thick 3D, and it had a character smoking a joint, and he had the lenses on, and it had a jumping character which was Woodstock, Snoopy's little bird friend, and it also had a dancing Snoopy, and it had a background that was an orange cloud. Just he went over whatever was behind him. So that's my first thing that I saw. It was in 1976. I was 10. He was king of the double R's, insides and outsides. But he was king of the double R's, not with throw-ups, which no diss to throw-ups, because throw-ups is part of the art of graffiti art. He was king with burners, window down fucking whole cars, insides with a uni, with a mini, and a pilot, no, a Marvy. So he was king on 3 levels. Insides, outsides were burners, and
Just
nope,
with
not
style.
really throw-ups. He was just king,
So
and he
listen,
was dope. What?
so for those of you that are listening to this, and you can see this photo, this is a portrait of Don Juan around that time. I would say around 75, right?
Nope,
Or 76.
1976. That's the Bowery layup.
Okay, so 76 at the Bowery train station, and here you see him there, posing in front of a Don Juan tag that says "All-Time Greatest R.R. King." And it's
Word.
beautiful penmanship and writing.
Crazy.
It's legible. It's neat. And then the Don One tag has so much style with that
Ripping.
lowercase n, the one, and that sort of underlining his
Forget it.
tag. So really, really beautiful. version of it, and here
Look
you
at
see him
that.
again.
Phew.
Uh,
Taking up the death squad.
and so when we think about these old days of writing, and when we think about writing in general, a lot of what we think about is tagging style. The you have to have style, and how much it takes to get good. And when you look at Don One, look at him taking his time with this tag. His tag has a cloud that turns into a character that's smoking. It's just he spells out the whole crew name. He's obviously taking his sweet time and really emphasizing his ability. I mean, you see it, and it's impressive.
Totally, totally impressive, man. Because the guy, now when I got to know him, see, this is how when I started to see him. First, I saw the piece on the train. I had no idea who he was, and I had no idea where he was from. The way I found out was, so I used to go to junior high school 204, same high school as Nas, but I went a little bit before Nas. So that's in Long Island City, but it's in Long Island City, which is the cutoff point between Astoria, which is where I was raised, and Long Island City, Astoria, which is where Don One was more from that part of the neighborhood than where I was. He only lived like, it turns out he only lived like a mile, a little bit more than a mile away from me. So when I was in junior high school, I would walk outside of the neighborhood because I wanted to explore where I would be going to high school, which was Long Island City High School, which is right by Queensboro Plaza. So then I discovered his secret schoolyard. I walked around, and at first I saw his tag, tagging up weird clicks that I thought were weird that I never heard of at the time. Don One SSB, Soulstone Brothers. Don One Mafia, Mafia. So I'm like, this has got to be Dean BYB's friend from the Bronx or something like that, because in 1980, I was saying to myself, there is no one from this neighborhood that writes this good. He's got to be from the Bronx, because you were kind of inundated with the Bronx got the best guys. Be that as it may, I was like, where's this guy from? And I started to see more and more of the pieces started to come together. And I'm like, wait a minute. What the fuck is this? And I walked into what I call the secret schoolyard. Let me tell you something, Kat. I felt like I was Howard Carter discovering fucking King Tut. That's that right there, that piece you're showing, that's in that schoolyard. And if you look, it's I guess Marlin blue, outlined in red. And if you look real close, he's got highlights with a marker. Now that predates a lot of people. I could go down the line. First guy I ever saw on a train ever use spray paint and a marker, it's funny, is this guy that used to write KR2. I met him in 1980. Anyway, KR2 used to do these block letters, and he used to do the Dr. Atomic cartoon character that later on Scene used to do. It's called the Flying Eyeball. It was on the #1 line. And I used to see KR2 in like yellow, orange, and red, and then I'd see the Flying Eyeball, and I go, what the fuck is that? He would outline it with a marker, but I kind of like didn't like that, because whenever someone outlined a piece on a train, filled in with spray paint but outlined with a marker, the marker would bleed through. If you did a piece, you couldn't do a piece over it. The marker would come through. So I was like, fuck that. But anyway, bringing it back to Don, I just was floored, because it didn't end there. I walked down the block a little bit more to a double handball court. That's where I just, it's almost like the handball court grew and fucking smacked me in the fucking face. There was a top to bottom. Do I got to stop?
No. There was a top to bottom.
On the handball court was a top bigger than a train. It was about 2 feet taller than a train. He must have been on a couple of milk cartons or whatever. It was a silver, and I call it a burner because the style was just fucking crazy. Very legible, silver and black. And I looked at it. I went, what the fuck, man? It had two little arrows. That's all it had. Two arrows, silver blockbuster burner, silver and black. And I
All
said,
right.
what? Who the fuck is this guy? Now, only two people that I knew who Don One was. KBTSS and his vice president, Jace TSS. He used to write JC2 and he used to write Jace, Jace. And then later on, I found out that Gear was the one that introduced Don One to Dean. So that connection came from Gear, who later formed TCK and was part of BYB and Mafia. Gear is an original Mafia member. So is
Okay.
Knock 167, and I could go on
So
and on. But
so you go into the schoolyard, and so I want to go back to this image, just to show everybody sort of what you encountered. And so what I think is also very interesting about this image is that in the center, and there's sort of this O that he's created with the star in the middle of it. It looks like a keyhole, with a star. It says Don, and then underneath it says Top.
oh
Meaning
yeah,
Top Crew, which is
yeah,
the Brooklyn crew, and then
right,
underneath that it says Don, and then it also says Salsa,
right,
which is an Uptown crew.
right.
And so obviously Don is getting around.
Oh yeah,
And Don is known and knows a lot of people if he's down with these crews. And then on top of that, you see this style. There's a lot of things happening here.
yeah. Well, the other thing about that piece specifically and around that piece is his own personal metamorphosis. There's tags in that schoolyard that date back to 1973 when his tag was The Godfather, and the name of his crew, that's in the South Bronx right there. His name is The Godfather, and his crew is called Murder Incorporated. It wasn't until 75-ish, 74, 75, that a writer at the High School of Art and Design High School, where Don One was a photography major, a writer that wrote Steel One, told him, yo, you write graffiti? No, do you know how to write? So Don goes, what do you mean do I know how to write? What the fuck are you talking about? Of course I know how to write. He's like, nah, man, do you know how to write graffiti? And Don One, it was like a bolt of lightning hit him. He went, graffiti? What's that? That guy told him what graffiti was. Then he came back to school and he tells Steel One, hey man, I came up with a tag and the name of a crew. And Steel One goes, what? He goes, I'm The Godfather and my crew is Murder Incorporated. So Steel One goes, by the time you write that, you're going to get arrested because it's too many words. He goes, why don't you shorten it? And Don goes, to what? He goes, I don't know. Why don't you call yourself Don? Because that's like, like The Godfather, the movie, the Don, which actually in Italian means sir. You could change your name to Don, but you got to come up with a clique, a crew. So Don goes home, smokes some Acapulco Gold, which was his favorite weed, and he takes a shot of his father's, we used to call it old man whiskey, J&B. He takes a shot of J&B, he smokes a joint, and he lays down on his bed. And he starts to think, Don One, Don One, Don Mafia, Don, the Godfather of the Mafia, which in my opinion, I'm sorry, it's the greatest 1-2 punch in graffiti history, to me. The Don of the Mafia, the Sir DON1 MAFIA, which stands for Masters Administration for Incredible Artists. I don't know another clique that's almost as cool as that. I say almost because there was a lot of cool sounding cliques. Enter Dondi, which to me is kind of like a derivative of Don One, because Don One kind of predates him by about 2.5 years. Dondi was hitting BMTs in East New York.
But one of
So was Lee. What?
one of the interesting things about name selection is that whenever you think you have an original name, like a week later, you hear
Somebody
about
else
another
has it.
person that they already had it, or they used to
Right.
have it. Right? And
Right.
so just to put into context, in New York City in the early 1970s, there were thousands of writers, thousands. And so for everybody, for every Dondi, there was another Dondi. For every Nako, which was what Dondi wrote before, there was another Nako that was older, from the earlier 70s. And these names were names that, kids wrote. A lot of kids didn't have any knowledge of each other, especially if you only wrote on your train line, or if you only wrote in your school or in your neighborhood. And so there were these pockets. Every neighborhood was a pocket. Every train line was its own thing. And so there's we get to talk about a lot of very special artists and a lot of very special writers here that are very well known because they were documented in books or documented in films, and they became very famous, or they were exceptional because they moved around. I think Don is an exceptional person that we are talking about today, and he's exceptional because of his style and what he contributed. He wasn't necessarily exceptional because he was the All City King and everybody knew him. He was a local guy that locally did a lot of interesting pieces and had an impact, so much that he had an impact on you and on other people, and he became part of this tradition. And he's a bit of an unsung hero.
Totally.
And if it wasn't for you and your friendship with him, we might not know this stuff. If it wasn't for you deciding to do this book and catalog his work and share it with the world, no one might know. The world might have missed Don Juan. So, I personally want to thank you. And I know all my friends, everybody that I know that's a fan of this movement, loves it. I recommend the book all the time. It's a really big deal to be able to share this history. It's a bit of obscure, underground art history that's very important to us that are part of the movement. And it's very important in the overall history of this movement. But it's definitely
Big time.
obscure. It's definitely underground. It's like when you go to like a comic shop, and then you go to the underground comic section, and you see those copies of those comics that they might have only made 1,000 from some little press in San Francisco or
Von
whatever.
Baudet.
Right, like Von Baudet, right? And so there's this underground nature to what we do, and then there's levels of that,
Literally.
right?
Literally.
And so I want to just pause for just 1 second to thank everybody who's donated so far and done the whole badge thing that we're experimenting with here. We very much appreciate it, and we appreciate your support. And just so that you know, these talks are archived. We do save them. We re-edit them and we present them on YouTube so that everybody can have access to them regardless of Instagram. We also save them in our IGTV right here on Instagram. And so you can watch it later, or if you jump in the middle, you could go back and watch it. And so just for you, Louis, that you're doing this for us for the first time, you get really close to your camera. And so sometimes we're just looking at your forehead or your evil eyes, right? And so just for you to be aware that we want to be able to see you, so we can we don't have to just only stare at your mug.
Well, you know
Or
what it is.
mug.
I got a mug, so there's nothing else I can do about having the mug. But I mean, I could go on and on and on and totally decipher everything.
And so I want to share something just quickly that is online, just to kind of like encapsulate this moment of the greatness of Don right here. So check this out, Louis.
Oh my God, I know what it is. That's the BBC footage. Yep. Watching my name go by. That's him when he's 18 years old. That's Don Juan that I never met. That's 1976. He's with Jot, Jot was the only guy. His name is Sheldon Napoli. He was an art and design student who wrote with Don Juan. And there you go, Joe. That's Joe right there. Look at him. He's the fucking star of this whole movie. The BBC paid him.
Listen, he's 17 years old, he says.
I know the whole shit.
Listen.
I know the whole shit. You know how long I searched for that footage? For years, until some writer from England sent it to me. He goes, "You got to see this. The BBC put it up." I became a member of the BBC. I never could get anything from them.
That bubbles over into a graphic visual form. We find on walls.
My man, right there. Crazy.
But I think the
Hot pink, cherry red, looks like Cascade green. Master Blaster. Crazy. Crazy.
So,
Crazy.
Every now and then we stumble upon this footage, and I definitely recommend it if anybody has seen it or hasn't seen it. It's online. It's called Watching My Name Go By. It's footage from the BBC from 1976. It's extraordinary
Crazy.
footage, really amazing footage, and it's a gem. It's a gem. The fact that they have Don on there is
Forget about it.
Is double of a gem. And so I want to get back to Don and exactly you know, seeing his work and meeting him. But I want you to sort of take us down memory lane, you know, just with these pieces. And so you got to meet Don, and you got to spend time with him.
Yeah,
and
a lot.
Get access to all these great, great pieces. And so here, I think what one of the things that was special about Don as well, and encountering his archive, was that he had some great images of his work and of others. But when you look at this piece.
I know. I love that piece.
And so here,
I love it.
Here you can see this is on a train. When we're talking about Astoria and the double R's, he painted this in Astoria. And the train says Astoria. It's basically 3 colors.
That's it.
3 colors. With
That's
this
like
little
from
character.
1975.
This is 1975, folks.
And he ain't even like badass as much as people like love that piece. The shit that came only like several months later and turned it into 76. See, if you look to the right, there's a character, and that train, I think he called it, it says something on it. I can't tell from here. I think he wrote "Style, Baby, Style." Because, Don won, to me, Don won to KR won, not to talk in the third person, whatever, but Joe Palatella and Louis Gasparo, that dude was my teacher without him even knowing who the fuck I was. He didn't even know that I existed. None. So he taught me from the past, from the distant, like, I don't even know how to say it. It's like he came out of nowhere to me, and I instantly was gravitated to what he was doing without him knowing the pull that he had on me. So in 1975, when he did that, he was writing with Inca, who was president of TSK, the Stone Killers. They're from Sunset Park. But really, the guy that's got to be mentioned in this Don 1 story is Al Diaz, Bomb 1. Because Bomb 1 is the missing link from Don 1 to the layups. It was Bomb 1 that showed Don 1 the Bowery layup, which was then frequented by Bomb 1, AFX 2, Lee, Fabulous 5, and many, many others. It was Don 1's go-to place outside of Astoria. He would do Astoria, then he would go to the Bowery, which is underneath, the ground of where CBGB's was. Then you move uptown to the number 2 line, and Don hits 225th Street off the station and does this piece in fucking broad daylight. And right here...
Wait, we're going to get to that.
Okay.
You're getting very excited about this, but I want to point out a few things in this piece. Just to point out stylistically, when you look at the D,
it goes into the O. I know.
Around and becomes the O.
I know.
Right? It's fantastic. It's so simple and just so
simple,
effective. And I'm sure this is just a little while before this. Check out this piece.
Oh yeah, I didn't see those, but if you look real close, those are on the Ridgies, and if you look on the door, there's a Popeye tag on the door. Do you know who that is?
I do know who Popeye is.
Okay, so enough with Popeye. But Don won, and he already put a crown on top of the D, like, yo, I'm the king.
Well, he
That's a
also
fucking...
puts up 3YB, and he also puts
Right.
Dean in it.
Where's the Dean tag?
The Dean tag is in the arrow coming off the D. Oh, no, maybe that's not Dean. That's a Don tag.
That's not a Dean tag.
That's
He
a
didn't
Don
know
tag,
Dean
yeah.
yet. He met Dean in, like, when Dean moved from Upper Manhattan, where BYB stood for Brandeis Yard Boys. He moved from the IRTs and moved to Queensbridge, which is very close to where I am. He met Don Juan through gear, and then they formed a friendship. But at that point, with that throw up on the Ridgies, he didn't know who Dean was. He met
check
Dean
this out.
later.
So
I
check
know,
this
I
out.
love that.
Now we
Love
have
it.
this masterpiece here. This
Right.
has to be about, what, 76?
It's night. Did he tag out? Is Mafia tagged up in it?
TFA, no Mafia.
You know what TFA is? TFA is the Fantastic Artist. There was 3 people in the Fantastic. This is not the Fantastic Artist that Dez put together and then had people like Scheme and TFA. This is before that TFA. This is a 3-man crew. It's Don 1, Gear, and Dean. So that's got to be 76.
So
That's the Fantastic Artist.
To me, this is an exceptional piece, and he's using things that were very popular at the time. This
Right.
sort of like this pipe coming off the top of his D. Right? You
Yeah.
see that?
Of course.
And then how the letter D splits in the middle, you know,
Yes.
and the arrows and these extensions on the left and these chips.
Yes.
And these curls around.
Yeah, and the thick 3D.
And look how thick the 3D is. I mean, this is very reminiscent of TDS.
Right.
And I would call this the style of 76.
But I'll tell you specifically where he got that from. Don 1 was influenced by, maybe in hindsight, Don 1 was friends with Billy 167.
Oh, you can see it.
Yeah, well, the pipe that you're talking about, the thing that comes off the D, that, like, what did you call it?
I call it a pipe.
Okay, the pipe that comes off the top left part of the D, that hookup, so many writers don't even know where that comes from. Billy 167 was the first person that I noticed it in. Like, I was writing at the time, I saw some buffed shit, but then through photos and through Don's collection, I'm like, that's Billy 167. He was like, Billy 167 was the best. And in my opinion, that's where Scene UA gets all his shit from, is Billy 167.
Right.
Don
So
1 was friends with him.
Right, but that's not a surprise. And so for those
No, it's not.
that don't know or have heard of Billy 167, Billy 167 was a style master from the Bronx that was very well known for burning, for doing, you know, beautiful, beautiful style pieces. He painted with Blade. He painted with many, many people. Tracy 168.
Lee,
the MG Boys. He was part of MG Boys. He was part
so
of
was Don
Wild
1.
Style. And so he was a bit of a mentor to Scene stylistically. And so that extension that you see off the top of the D, that's sort of, I'm calling it a pipe because it looks like that old pipe that you'd smoke, like an old smoke.
That's true. I never thought of that.
Right. And so, you know, when I talk to a lot of these old timers, they're literally, you know, drawing from real life and incorporating into these letters. And so there's a pipe with the cover for the pipe, whatever, that half circle. And yeah, you see that in a lot of Billy's pieces. Billy also used to write Gleam, G-L-E-A-M, G-L-E-A-M rather, and Bloodshot and Satan and a lot of really cool things. And so we'll have to do
It's all about the letters, man. These guys, the alphabet was not enough. We needed our own. We needed to make our own alphabet. That's why I call graffiti. There's a little side action. Graffiti to me is the highly stylized derivative of what was once known as your ABCs. We take the letter and we dismantle it. If you want to quote Ramelzi, iconoclastic panzerism is the iconoclastic panzerism is the armament of the letter. Dandyism is Dandy's version of the letter. Now, if you look, now that's Don 1 in action off the station. You know who his lookout is? Using his camera, Billy 167 took that photo of Don 1 right off the station on either 225 or 233. I think it's 225 Street on the number 2 line. Now, Don 1 did that, and Chain 3 seen it and went, you know what? This motherfucker and Knock 167 are the future of graffiti. Now, I'll defy, I don't want to use words, but to me, Don 1 cannot be fucked with. Not because he's my boy, not because he lived in my neighborhood, because he just can't be fucked with. That's it. There you go. That's the first Mafia piece he ever did. There was a guy that used to write Mafia as a tag. But that right there, Masters Administration for Incredible Artists, legible, style, thick 3D, character on a fucking motorcycle. What's his name? Nicolas Cage plays him.
The Grim Reaper.
The Grim Reaper. No, not the Grim Reaper, but something else. Ghost Rider. It's a combination of Ghost Rider and the Grim Reaper and the word Mafia, and there goes the wheel. And in the middle, he spells it out with like a newspaper clipping, let's call it. Crazy. Crazy in the fucking head. That's his last piece. That's one of his last pieces. That was done in 1977. That right there, without the yellow and without the twinkles everywhere, that shit right there. Now I could break it down and tell you what came out of this. Now, in the D, there's like a slot. In the ones before it, they used to put slots, and there was like little within the slot. You'd see like a facet, like. In other words, you could go inside of it and then make a left or right. Now, he divided the D. That's really wild. He put like 3 things inside the D. There's a star. There's a pipe that goes from the top to the bottom. The bottom of it bends. That's all Dondi right there. Dondi saw this shit, and even the first 3 letters of Don's tag are D-O-N. I'm not saying Dondi bit off Don 1. He didn't bite. He took it and went, damn. Check this motherfucker out. And it wasn't until Zephyr had to tell Dondi, no. He's not from the IRTs. You're thinking of Don 101. Because there was a guy that wrote Don 101. But you can't even compare Don 101 to Don 1. People might argue, but, whatever. Oh, look at that. That's the first Baudet character ever done on a fucking train. And you know what? There's other people that say that they're the first one. Argue with Lee. Lee TF5 saw Don 1 do that in the Bowery. So that's why
the only 2 people the only other person that I've heard claim the first one is Ree.
Right.
And Ree doing a Cheech Wizard. So maybe it was the first Cheech Wizard. But also another old writer. And so you have, there's he learns about graffiti, you mentioned before, in the High School of Art and Design. And so you mentioned Al Diaz or Bomb One, someone else who was in art design. Another student at art design at the time was Shadow, right? And
that's right, Spike Lee's brother.
Spike Lee's brother. And so there, Art Design High School was a very important sort of pivotal place for writers to learn about graffiti and decide to either go with it or not go with it. And he obviously went with it. And it was a great place to connect, to learn and practice and sort of, vibe off of your peers. And so, I want to say, thank you for everybody so far for contributing. And yes, rest in peace, Shadow, another very important writer and very, very good dude on the scene. He was always around and always a very generous person and a very good-hearted person. And so here you have Don 1 taking the lessons and all these people that he was meeting and all the stuff that he was seeing and synthesizing it and making it in his own flavor. And that's really what was happening. I don't like to necessarily say this and that and the best and this and that, because
Right.
everybody was trying to burn. Everybody was trying to be the best.
You know what,
Everybody was taking
Alan?
from each other and one-upping each other and
Let
just
me just
trying to
interject something.
go ahead.
This is very important. That's the first Don Juan piece I ever saw. 1976. I seen it on 36th Avenue. I was looking at it and I'm like, what the fuck? Look at this guy. Look at this piece. I could, you know what? You know what's funny? If that thing could, I would eat that train. If I could fucking eat that train, I would fucking like devour it. That's the kind of like impact this guy's art had on me. It was like nasty fucking flavor. He was nasty, bro.
This
And
has
nasty,
black shines.
black, black twinkles. Don Juan in the character smoking the joint.
And
Out
look
of
at this,
control.
the bottom of the D has that corn cob
Stand, like a
pipe that I
stand or
was telling you
something.
about. You know,
Yeah.
coming under him, and he's got you know, like chin hairs and a cigarette, a long cigarette. It's
Well,
pretty outrageous.
listen, man. Yo, it's out fucking outrageous.
It's
Now,
pretty
he
outrageous.
has
But
a
I want,
little.
you know, we don't have much time. We're coming to the
Okay.
hour mark, and so
So
I want us
what?
to get through some of these pieces so people can
Okay.
see it.
So in other words, shut the fuck up. I gotta shut the fuck up and let you talk.
Well, look, no, I'm just trying to keep you on track here. Look at this.
Okay. I know. That's the Don Juan fucking mafia car.
So this is the other part of it.
DON. Crazy. DON. You know, Freedom calls those pipe letters. I didn't. That right there is, to me, he's got two of the fucking baddest pieces. That's one. And the other one, he has that character as a character looks just like Don Juan did. He had a bit of a pointy big nose. He had wild hair. He had a little mustache, and he smoked joints.
Right.
That
so
right there.
This is a self-portrait.
That's right, and it's fucking dope. He's got everything in it, man. The profile character that replaced the letter O. I mean, how many times has that been done? Forget it, man. Forget it. I'd say
He's following tradition, and he's doing it in his own way.
forget it, man. It's just like it's mad flavor. It's just flavor on top of flavor. And his photography, we haven't even spoken about that. That's all shot with a 35 millimeter camera. Look at this guy. Now this is the other. Right, I saw this. A legend well lived. Then he says goodbye. I saw that in person, and I was like, what? There's a couple of instances where I seen Don Juan's pieces in person. 3 pieces I seen that lasted from when he did it to 1982. I was in the M Yards. What?
So just so that everybody gets the point of this whole piece, we saw the piece before. This is the cloud to the left on the train, and there it is. And then the cloud is coming from a car.
A racing car. A
racing
Corvette.
car.
It's a Corvette coming off the wheel, and it says Don on the car.
It's Don's car.
But I seen that piece in person, and I was like, holy fucking shit, man. Yo, it was unbuffed. It went from, what is this? Oh, that's a Black Book piece. Sick in the head. That's one of my favorite pieces, man. Rapidograph pens, design markers. He even used airbrush in Black Books. Now, I got to bring up Days, and I got to bring up Chino Malo. Days, I got to bring him up because in that secret schoolyard, there was a Days piece. Days knew Dean, and he used to play basketball in Queensbridge with Dean because Days used to live in Roosevelt Island, which is between Long Island City and Manhattan. And I know, that's another one. That's a killer right there. Airbrush chicks, burners. Fuck, dude, he was hitting on all cylinders, man. He was like hammering anvils, straining fucking muscle and fucking might, bro. Killer. Don Juan was, I can't say enough about this fucking guy. Dude, the more I look at it, the more, it's right there. I got that right here. Boom. And he's right there looking at it. He's right in the middle with the O. You see that, right? And he signed it right there. All-time BMT King. Well, look at his tag style. I told you. I know. Look close up. Just show the detail. Yep. I'm telling you, man. I mean, I could keep going on and on and on. That's one of my favorite shots. That's gear one from Queens, from Manhattan, then later from Queens, on the fucking layup between Broadway and 30th Avenue in broad daylight on the double R tracks with Don Juan just right next to him. It's like Jimi Hendrix on the layup. I'm gonna fall down, bro, because it's too much for me to take.
We're back.
We are.
All right. So where we left off, and thank you everybody again for jumping back on with us. You know, sometimes alerts happen and then our video gets knocked off. Puerto Rico Rob, thank you for joining us again. Everybody, thank you for coming back on. My name is Alan Kett. This is Louis K.R. Gasparo. We are talking about the late, great Don Juan from Astoria, Queens, and his legacy and his work and how important and monumental he was to the movement, and a very obscure artist who had an impact and did great work. But if you miss it, you miss it. And so we're talking about him and his connection to the graffiti world at the High School of Art and Design and how important that was. And so at the High School of Art and Design, something that you mentioned earlier, he took up photography, right?
Right.
And,
yep, that was
just,
major.
Just 1 second. Let me backtrack for a second. Again, thanks everybody for joining us. My name is Alan Kett. This is the Museum of Graffiti. We've activated badges for anybody that wants to help us out. Donate $1 or $2 to keep us going. Your donations, as much as your admission to the graffiti, really helps us keep going.
Give him.
Helps us do
Give
the
the
work
money.
that we love to
Alan.
do.
Give Alan money for the fucking museum. Okay, it's the only one in the world.
I appreciate it very much. And visit us. And so people are traveling, come to Miami, come visit the museum, see Don Juan's work live and direct, and see all the things that we've assembled to celebrate this very important movement that we love so much. And so you're going to tell us a little bit, Louis, about Don and the High School of Art and Design and photography, and then I'm going to show some of his photography. Cool? So, Louis, while you're going to tell us a little bit about A&D and Don and photography, all right?
Now I can't hear you again.
Can you hear me now? No. Sound? No sound? Yes? No sound? Does anybody hear me? Any sound or no? All right, we're having a tough connection here. Can anybody
Put
hear
the headphones
us?
on.
Can you hear me?
Maybe that'll work.
All right, so everybody can hear me and I can hear you. Check this out.
All right, cool. Now we're good. Now I can hear you perfect.
All right, great. So I want you to explain to us photography and the High School of Art and Design as it relates to Don Juan, because he produced some very iconic and beautiful images that I want to share. This being one of the most
I love that picture.
ones.
I love that picture. I talk to Gear all the time because, see, one of the things with me is I never knew Don Juan when he was Don Juan, let's say. I knew him, I wound up meeting Don Juan after he had an ailment. So before I get into the ailment, let me tell you what happened on design. Don Juan used to go to a Catholic school named St. Patrick's. And Catholic schools in New York City, at least, in Long Island City and Astoria, they went from kindergarten to 8th grade. So Don Juan won every art contest he was in. He had blue ribbon first place in his house to the day that he passed away. God bless him. So what happened is there was a nun, which was one of his teachers at St. Patrick's, and since Don's illustrative works were incredible, Master's Administration for Incredible Artists, the nun told Don Juan about art and design. and said, "Hey, you know, Joe, why don't you try out for this special art school?" And Joe was like, "What special art school?" And she told him it's called the High School of Art and Design. So Don Juan took all his ribbons, all his drawings, and made it into art and design like with flying fucking colors. Don Juan was a multifaceted artist. One of his one of his other talents besides graffiti was that he was a fucking photographer. So he got in and he majored in photography. So not only he's on many levels, Don Juan is so influential because he not only was taking photos of his work like any other person that had a camera would do. He had a 35 millimeter camera. So he's one of the first, at least when it comes to graffiti writers, he may be the first graffiti artist who took full frontal shots, photos of his pieces and his contemporaries at a time when maybe only a few people on Earth were taking photos of the New York City subway system at that time with that kind of a camera, with that kind of an eye. Because not only are his photos great in terms of like he's taking pictures of really cool graffiti, the photo itself is a great photo besides the graffiti. The
This is a
fact that
beautiful
the
photo.
graffiti, yeah, what?
This is an exceptional photo. This is an exceptional photo.
That's one of many.
When I think of Don Juan and what he learned at the High School of Art and Design, it reminds me also of Flint, who also was
Flint
at
is
High
very
School of Art.
instrumental.
He was also at the High School of Art and Design
He
at the same
was.
time.
He knew Don Juan.
He also took photography, and
He did.
they were the two people that really had an eye for this, and they documented their own scenes. And so when you look
Right.
at Flint's work that's in the museum, beautiful photography.
Crazy.
When you look at Don Juan's work in the museum, beautiful photography, and we lean on them to teach us about this history when, you know, in the past we were leaning more so on, you know, the photography of, you
Oh
know,
my God. Don't
outsiders.
even show me that piece right there.
So tell me about
That
this.
I'll tell you about that. That photo, that's Butch 2, TFP. His partner was Case 2. God bless Case 2. Case 2 was fucking dynamic and a style master fucking to the max. Butch 2 was Case 2's partner. Don 1 Don 1 did this piece on the same train station that Butch 2 is standing on top of the no clearance. Or it's right off the station, which you know what I mean as a writer. He did a top to bottom whole car in broad daylight off the station. Don 1 was friends with Butch 2, was friends with Case 2, was friends with Chain 3, was friends with Billy 167. I don't know how he ended up there when Butch 2 was doing that piece. I guess they communicated like, yo, Don, I'm going to be at this station. Come and take a picture of me doing it. So he took a succession of shots from the first dot on the train, the first fat cap, foam cap, spray paint coming out of fucking Butch 2's can until Butch 2 was completed with that top to bottom whole car. It looks like it's Cascade Green and Fed Purple. Or Marlin Blue and Fed Purple.
So, you know, you bring up a couple of interesting things here that I want to elaborate or explain to everybody. This, you know, first of all, painting this in the daytime, it's such a wonderful.
You're going to get busted. You could get busted at any time.
A wonderful thing. This is on the station, and the station has these girders that if you stand on it like Butch 2, you can reach the top of the train. And it's a very special thing. But the trains are active. That means when the train comes, you have to hide. But obviously, this is done on the weekend when the trains are parked there.
Right.
The service is running a little.
I can't hear you.
So the train has more time.
Now I can hear you.
right? When it's parked there on the weekends,
Right.
and you can do this. But I think around the same time, Butch, maybe less, but Don might have been meeting these people at Noga.
Oh yeah,
And so
he
Noga,
met them at Noga without a doubt. But
and so Case was around Noga. A lot of these guys that had a lot of style went to Noga, which was an organized sort of a workshop.
Nation of Graffiti Artists.
Nation of Graffiti Artists was an organized group
Yep.
of artists, collective, headed up by Jack Pelsinger, first uptown in the Upper West Side, and then later in the Bronx. And so this was a great place to meet other artists. And I know Chain 3 was there, and a lot of artists there. And so maybe it was something like there. Maybe it happened there, but the images are phenomenal.
Look at that. That's a fucking Lee burner on the double R's. Now, Lee, who's a friend of mine and a friend of yours and a friend of the museum and one of the most famous graffiti writers, graffiti artists from the New York City train era worldwide, right? He's a world famous artist from the Lower East Side of New York City. Now, he's not very known for doing burners on trains, although his top to bottom whole cars, you could consider those burners too, because they just fucking burn. But he's known for blockbusters. Now, this car right here, which I think Lee did at the Bowery, Don Juan took a photo of it, and it's a fucking killer, ripping fucking photo of a killer, ripping piece. So this is what I meant about Don Juan. Not only was the photo of some cool shit, like a dope fucking piece, the photo itself was another work of art, because the composition of the photo was just like, Don Juan was a professional photographer, and dare I say a professional graffiti artist, because he's the first one, and anybody could ask me about this, we could prove this. Don Juan went straight from the fucking subways, off the tracks, right into the print world in porno magazines. He did the cover of Cherry Magazine, November 79. The fucking cover. And I know in the 70s, porn magazines were giving a lot of underground artists a lot of work to do some cartoons and blah, blah, blah inside the magazine. Don Juan had the fucking two covers, man. He had Cherry Magazine, and he did a High Society one, and he had airbrush illustrations inside, full pages. So, suffice it to say, I can't think of anyone, I was going to say in rock history, because I have a lot of musical analogies. I think that Don Juan is the first one in fucking graffiti, subway graffiti history to do a lot of certain things. And I got to, you're thanking me for talking about Don Juan. I got to thank Don Juan for being, I got to thank Don Juan's parents for having him be their son. I got to thank God for letting him be born to these people. He influenced beyond the scope of his own imagination. Look, man, there's only a certain amount of people that do this in humanity. I don't want to compare him, but I only know a certain about. Look, Bruce Lee, Jimi Hendrix, Bob Marley, Thin Lizzy. I could go down the line. There's only a few of these people born human. Don Juan, to me, is right up there with Stay High 149. He's right up there with Lee. He's right up there with Jester. He's right up there with Is the Wiz. He's right up there with In. He's right up there with Dean. He wasn't an all-city king, but he definitely was the master of the Masters Administration for Incredible Artists, the most devastating 1-2 punch, dare I say, in fucking rock history. Don Juan was the Led Zeppelin of fucking graffiti art. I'm sorry, man. That's just the way it is to me, man. You know, people could be like, yo, whatever.
You have
that right there. That's the man right there.
You have so much love for Don, and he influenced you and so many other artists. It's so great that you took upon yourself the work to document him and tell his story. Here you are with Don. Um, you know,
That's one of my shows, and the only reason why he came to it because it was maybe like 5 blocks from his house. He developed many phobias because, unfortunately, due to the hedonistic lifestyle of the 70s, let's call it, Don One had a really bad accident. Don One was overdosed. Not, it was done not on purpose, but in the 70s, people used to dose other people. You'd think that you'd be smoking a joint and there would be PCP in the joint. Now, Don One was a casual marijuana user. He liked the indica, which makes you more introspective. And he would draw, like many of us did this, and many of us continue and will continue to enhance the creative aspect of what we're doing. So you smoke a little pot and you bug out a little bit and you draw. That's all he ever did until the fateful day in 1978 when he was by Madison Square Garden with 2 females who they thought they were going to Studio 54. That was the plan. Don One was a disco dancer, but he was a lover of rock and roll because, like my older brothers, you can't dance with a chick at a fucking Aerosmith concert. Not really, but you could go to a disco like Studio 54 and really dance with a girl and really get close to a girl. And that's what Don was about. He was dapper. He was fucking smart. He was clean as a motherfucker. And he was badass. So he goes to hang out with these girls. They're smoking pot. They're having some drinks. He's thinking what any red-blooded American male would be thinking at that point. So let's go. So they come out, oh, hey, Joe, how about this? And they show him a mirror. He takes the fucking mirror and he snorts everything on the fucking mirror that looks like cocaine. Suffice it to say, much to his deterioration, it was not cocaine. It was street name angel dust, and it was a fucking synthetic, man-made, harmful narcotic that blew his mind out in one instance. One instance. To go further, and Don knows about this. Now you know about it, and now a lot of people are going to know about it. I'm an actor. One of the things I do, and one of the things I'm going to do, it's going to be the second time I've done it live in front of a lot of people. My friend, none other than Michael McClure, Mr. Caves, has a place in Brooklyn. It's called the Firefly. I'm going to do what I call Pump and Cool. Now, Pump and Cool is my performance of Don One. I become Don One. So that's going to happen in September of this year. The other thing that's going to happen in September, early October, is I'm doing a show in what's the name of the gallery? Let me see if the Caves' spot's called Firefly. It's in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. The gallery that I'm doing, it's the Vanderplas. Yeah, Vanderplas Gallery on the Lower East Side. And it's going to feature none other than Al Bomb One Samo Diaz and Crime 79, also known as George Ibanez, and Louis KR1 Gasparo. It's going to be called Lineage because we all come from someplace, and it's about the lines of where we come from. The missing link here is Don One. Al Diaz showed Don One the layups. Don D showed me and Crime 79 style. So did Don One. And Bomb One is the one that took Don One to the fucking Bowery. So it can't be. The only thing that's missing from this is Don D and Don One. But you know what? They're not missing. Their art will live, and so will ours. You know why? Because we're part of this line that has become a worldwide phenomena. To me, Alan, You guys are doing planet Earth such a service in the history of humanity because this art is a metamorphosis and it's a phenomena like none other ever in fucking history. Van Gogh was dope. Picasso was dope. Michelangelo, dope. But you know what? So is graffiti. So is graffiti. And now you guys, you, Mayor, I don't know the female's name, and whoever else that's involved, and all the graffiti artists in the world, you guys have created an institution that people can visit, talk about, understand, relive, and progress with the culture that has predated us and will outlive us. And that's all really I could say. I could say more, but it will be redundant and an exercise in futility. So, with no further ado, there he goes right there, the Don Juan in action with his New York City Housing Authority jacket on, being photographed by Gear One, who would take Don Juan's camera when Don Juan had his camera, and after Don Juan would take photos of everybody else, he would give his camera to his friends to take photos of him. So I can't thank anyone more than I can thank Don Juan for doing what the fuck he did, because you turned me on, bro. You showed me. And, you know, that's the way it goes.
Just so
But
that
look at
everybody.
Inca. That's Inca on the insides in broad fucking daylight. TSK. Look at the tags around him. Crazy. Crazy. Crazy tags around him. Inca is such a fucking nice guy, man.
And there's Inca.
Tagging up TSK and Mafia Incorporated. Mafia Incorporated. It's a business, man. It's strictly business. You know,
And
don't take it personally.
so these images that we're seeing here are all in the Don Juan book.
That's right.
And so this book is still currently in print. I have
That's
it right
right.
here in my hands.
Awesome.
It is
Awesome.
highly recommended. I highly, highly recommend everybody picking it up. If you're a fan of this movement, if what you've heard tonight interests you, if you're a fan of the history of graffiti, please pick up a copy. You can get it in great bookstores everywhere. You can get it online. You can get it at the Museum of Graffiti, at our online gift shop. You can get it in person at the gift shop. That helps us out. I believe that it is worth every penny and that it should be on your bookshelves if you don't already have it. And you know, and I think part of, you know, what we do, and thank you, Louis, for shouting us out and showing us love and spending time with us today. And everybody else, thank you so much for spending some time with us and for contributing and donating money to the museum. If you guys are out there and you want to become a member, you can become a member of the museum. Come and visit us. Any support is always helpful. And, you know, and what's helpful to our community is to pick up these books. You know, pick up the Don Juan book. There's so many books. I'm constantly buying books all the time. Thank you, Kaz, for joining us tonight. Kaz Rock 207.
Wow. Yo, Kaz is one of my fucking favorite writers, bro.
And also
Kaz 207, if you're listening, your shit was fucking on point and beyond dope. So thank you for all the Baudet characters and the ripping, long, wild fucking letters that you did, because I was one of the ones that was watching you, bro.
And also, Greg SP, thank you for joining us tonight.
Yes, Listen, Mr. SP1, yo, what up?
And you know, I'm saying, and Crime 79, thank you for joining us. You know, I'm saying to support artists to buy their books, right? It's important to buy books, to get the information, to support things that are done for writers, so that we can keep pushing forward and pushing forward and pushing forward and supporting and sharing our stories. And so the Museum of Graffiti has a great bookstore that we curate, that we dig up for books from all over the world. The Don Juan book is there. Pick it up. We brought this book back from Brazil recently. It is, let's see if I could show this to you. This is the Os Gêmeos book from their catalog from out there. Another great book to pick up that's available there. Of course, you know, one of my own books, the Rockin' and Suckers book, not to be biased or anything, but it's a great book.
You're very biased. I'm totally biased towards Riss. I am.
And you know, we pick up all these books. I'm constantly picking up books. I just caught another great book. I bought the last copy at the museum, and so you'll have to find it somewhere else. But this is the LA Graffiti Black Book, a tremendous book put out by the Getty Museum in LA. And all this stuff keeps us learning, keeps us celebrating this culture, and keeps things going. I love what you're showing us here. And all you guys that are on here, if you have any questions for Louis, if you have any questions for me, please drop it in the question section there. Let us know what's up. You have Louis for a few more minutes. You have me for a few more minutes.
Well, I gotta tell you, man. Listen, Alan, bro. It all started right there for me, bro. It all started on Broadway in Astoria because I had a great vantage point. My vantage point was this. I lived on 36th Avenue. I lived between 36th Avenue and Broadway train station. Now, I know plenty of you guys that are listening know that layout. And if you don't know it, you either weren't there or you know it. And I know you do. I know SP1 knows it. I know Crime 79 knows it. Cos 207 might know about it too, but he was on the one line and the IRTs. But I'll tell you right now.
By the way, the layup is still there.
No shit. I can send you pictures of it right now.
It'll be
in there.
It'll be in there tonight.
Well, there's nothing much that I can do about that but go look at it because
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, you know, it is that.
No, but I'm saying that. Alan, I'm saying that.
Listen,
but anyway,
you know, Greg BFB says let's go.
Well, he always says let's go, but I can't. He knows it too. So, you know what? All I gotta say is this. Check this out. Can you see that?
I can see it a little bit. You gotta go up a little bit. There you go. I see it.
Okay. Do you know what it says?
It's backwards. It's probably like yes, or I can't make it out.
Well, yeah, it says yeah. It's YEAH. Now, I had a show a couple of years ago downtown, and a friend of mine who knows Roger Dean, which now Roger Dean to me is just a fantastic artist. And to quote my good friend who passed away, the original president of OTB, Nick 707, I told him a story that happened to me and Roger Dean. And he looked at me and he said, yo, Lou, yo, that's hilarious. He said hilarious. He used to talk like that. And he was a funny dude, and God bless his soul. He said to me, you know what? That is the best graffiti story I've ever heard. I met Roger Dean. I spoke to him on a phone. And as soon as I spoke to him on the phone, I turned like I was 12 years old. I said to him, yo, you're the best. He started laughing, and I sent him one of my T-shirts. That piece says, yeah, YEAH. It's a, how can I say this? It's an imaginary progressive rock. It's an imaginary progressive rock band that I told him, if yes, the band Yes, that I'm wearing the T-shirt right here, Yes. Everybody knows that logo.
Yes.
Right. So I said, Roger, if Yes was from New York City, they would have been called Yeah. And you know what he did? He goes, that's fucking brilliant, mate. He drew in the original font that he hand-drew, he drew YEAH for me. So it was like me imitating him imitating me. And this is another piece. You see that?
I see that. What is that?
It says the art of the tag. Here. The art of the tag. And it's New York City tag style mixed with Roger Dean. So my whole shit is Don 1, Roger Dean. I mean, I could name a bunch of guys in between. Don 1, Roger Dean. Who can I name? Savage 1, KB, because he doesn't get enough props either. His tag style is fucking amazing. His throw-ups were killer. So I could name a lot of guys. AS2, T59, fucking Flick 2, Sun and Pro, Don 1, Smack, Sarro. I could go on and on and on and on. But what I got to say is, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, thank Mayor, that I know since 1980, he knows how, Kel 139, because Kel, T-Kid, people don't know. They had pieces on the BMTs. I seen them. So I thank Kel for all the letters, for all the K's that he gave me. I thank T-Kid for the nastiness. And I thank Mayor for being a cool guy in on design named Carl that turned me on to all these other young guys that were Doze. Doze is fucking ridiculous. Seeing TC5, Foam 1, who's my boy, who knew all these guys. So everybody thinks I went to On Design. But I got to say thank you again to Days for knowing who Don 1 was, for Chino Malo for saying, yo, that's Don 1 right there. Yo, that's Don 1. And for Don, and for you, and for everybody that's into this fucking culture, man, because, yo, if it wasn't for us, it just wouldn't be, man. It wouldn't be. I'm not claiming king of nothing, bomber of nothing. I just was there. I saw it. I did it. And thank God that I did, because it informed me about art in general. Frank Frazetta, I mean, come on, man. I could go on and on and on, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna stop. And I gotta thank this guy too. That right there, that's my brother.
Excellent.
That's it.
Louis,
Say,
thank you so much. So the one question that popped up, is the museum open? The museum is open. We open 7 days a week. We're open at 11 a.m. every single day. We're closed at 7 p.m. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Do it up.
And so we have visitors every day. Right now we have 2 exhibitions going. One is called Style Masters, and you'll see Don 1 in that exhibition. The other exhibition is a solo show by a Miami legendary graffiti writer and artist named Ross Terms. His show is called Ancient Futurism. Incredible painter, incredible artist. And so I highly recommend coming down here if you can. Miami's good. We're open.
You gotta go.
And yeah, and I think everybody would be pleasantly surprised to see at this museum. We're looking to continue to produce great exhibitions and great shows. Our next show is going to be Saber, Escape from Los Angeles.
Yo, Saber is out of fucking control, bro.
And so he's next. And so we're working. And so thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you for the person that said they bought the book. Someone copped the Don 1 book. And so we appreciate that. Any other books? And TL1, you're on here. Thank you for what you've done. We have your books in the museum. We make sure to carry everybody's books that we can find in the museum. We have your book, Louis, and so many other great books. And so if you love graffiti, if you want to get some books, go online and go to the museumofgraffiti.art, and you will find some great books and other stuff in there. And yeah, and even some of my books are in there. And I appreciate everybody.
Get them all.
Support. Peace, everybody.
Get them all.
Thank you. Have a great night and have a great weekend. And we'll see you next week.
All I got to say, Alan, is heavy fucking metal.
Heavy metal. Peace.
Peace out, brother.